Today's review is sponsored by Ode de Beef, the new perfume hitting the world of fashion. Drive your man wild by smelling like a fresh grilled steak. What could be sexier?
Watch it, Alan. I'm shooting.
Don't go in the house.
Hello, would you please send a cab to...
Ah, yes, we have another movie that was put on the infamous Video Nasties list. It was not one of the movies that was prosecuted, and before anybody gets into it in the comment section, no, I did not agree with the Video Nasties list. I think the whole thing was a load of bullshit. Let's move on. Don't Go in the House is part of this subgenre that I made up. I like to call it the rebellious teenager genre. This is a subgenre where every title in this genre tells people not to do something, and then every character in the movie does the exact opposite. Just like a rebellious teenager. Don't go in the woods, don't go near the park, don't open the door, don't panic! It's just a funny way to look at these movies that start with the word don't.
Well, do you have any beer? Because we're gonna need some beer.
Well, we could stop and get beer.
Great! Far out!
A case should do it.
Don't Go in the House can be put in the same group as movies like Psycho and Maniac. These are movies about young men that have severe mommy issues. They had abusive mothers, or they had very unhealthy relationships with their mothers, and as a result of that, when they become adults, they turn into killers.
You laughing at me? You think I'm crazy for talking to my mother like that? You're all bitches.
Psycho was the one that started it all with Norman Bates, the original murdering mama's boy. I guess you could put Jason Voorhees in this category too, but then in Maniac we had Frank Zito, and in this movie we have Donny Kohler. When Donny was a boy, his mom used to punish him for being bad, and her preferred choice of punishment was burning him.
Your father let you do things like that, but he's gone now.
As a result, Donny develops this relationship with fire. It's both a fear and affection for it. In the first act of this movie, Donny's mother dies, and this is where his descent into madness begins. He doesn't know how to behave without his mother around. She was always there to rule over his life and burn him. Donny starts to hear the voice of his mother in the back of his head. As he continues to lose his grip on reality, he goes out at night to lure women back to his house, or just flat out kidnap them. Once they're restrained, he murders them with a makeshift flamethrower that he made himself. Not only that, he keeps the charred bodies in his house, along with the rotting corpse of his mother. It's funny, there was this slasher movie called The Burning about a guy who was severely burned and then returns to the summer camp he worked out to murder the kids there. Of course, in that movie you only had one person burned, but in Don't Go in the House, you have a serial killer who was burned as a child, and he goes around killing people with a flamethrower. The Burning might have been a more appropriate title for this movie, but what are you gonna do? By the way, I love The Burning. That is a fantastic summer camp slasher movie. Don't Go in the House would make a good double feature with Maniac. Both movies came out around the same time. Both movies involve a man who had an abusive relationship with their mother, and because of that, when they become adults, they turn into murderers going around killing women. Of course, I like Maniac more than Don't Go in the House. Yeah, what a surprise. I mean, come on, I've talked about that movie so many times on this channel. Look at the title of this channel, for Christ's sake. Maniac has slightly better pacing than Don't Go in the House. In that movie, the killings are a little front-heavy. They mostly happen in the first act. In Maniac, the kills were a little better spaced out throughout the film. But that doesn't mean that Don't Go in the House is a bad movie. It just means that I like one movie more than the other. Don't Go in the House is still a very well done horror movie. It becomes more of a psychological horror movie as we get into the second act. Don't Go in the House has been categorized as a slasher movie, but like Maniac, it's more of a serial killer movie. We're following the life of the killer. Donny is all about fire. His weapon of choice is a flamethrower. There's only one on-screen kill in this movie, and oh, it's a doozy. But for the most part, we only see the aftermath of the kill. We see the charred body afterwards. Or we see a couple people get horribly mutilated by fire, but not die. I do love a good on-screen kill, as many of my fellow horror fans do, and I do wish there were more in this movie, but because of the weapon of choice, we only need to see the first kill, and then we get it for the rest of the film. Donny uses a flamethrower. He sets people on fire, and many people consider being burned alive to be the worst way to die, or at least one of the most painful ways to die. I don't think anybody will disagree with that. When we see the charred bodies of the victims, we get it, and we can imagine the pain they went through when they were killed. We know what fire can do to the human body.
Stop trying to scare me all the time. It won't work. You can't fool me.
The one on-screen kill we get is of a woman who's been strung up, hanging by chains that are hanging from the wall. And she's naked. Whenever a victim is naked or stripped down before their death, it adds an extra layer of vulnerability. When someone is naked, that is their most vulnerable point. Why do you think in so many horror movies you have people killed in the shower or while having sex? Because when you're naked, that is essentially your most helpless state. As much as I would have liked more on-screen kills, because of the fact every kill is done with a flamethrower, I do think it helps that a lot of them are off-screen. It prevents each death from becoming stale. But at the same time, I love me a good fire stunt, and I would not have minded seeing a few more on-screen deaths in the movie. But the bottom line is, it doesn't hurt the movie. It's still a well-done horror film.
Over here!
What makes this movie so creepy is the fact that Donny keeps the bodies in his house. He dresses them up and talks to them, and they talk back.
Trash! 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 Just like your father.
No!
Oh, yes, he got away, but you won't. You'll pay. You'll suffer.
I can't really judge Donny for this. I talk to the dogs I take care of all the time, but if they start talking back, that's when I'm going to worry. Right, Rover?
That's right, Justin.
Whenever a killer keeps their victims' bodies in their house, it's creepy. When they talk to the corpses, it's creepy. And that's another thing that Don't Go in the House has in common with Maniac. Both movies involve people keeping the corpses, or at least parts of the bodies, in their house and talking to them. Frank Zito scalps his victims and then puts those scalps on mannequins, and he talks to these mannequins.
Getting very careless. Blood in your hair. What will people say?
I love movies that follow the killer. When we see what's going on in the killer's world, it makes the movie so much more disturbing. It especially works in Don't Go in the House because we see Donny's delusions. Not only do these corpses talk to him, but every now and again they give him a jump scare.
Now he says that if you don't show up to work on Monday, you're out of a job. Hey Donny, did you hear what I said?
What separates Donny from characters like Norman Bates and Frank Zito is Donny has a friend, or at least somebody who's trying to be his friend. There's a man named Bobby who works with Donny, and he's trying to be there for him.
I don't want you to go home thinking that was your fault, man, because, I mean, things can happen and a guy can freeze in a situation like that, you know?
Obviously, he doesn't know that Donny's mother just died and that he's setting women on fire, but he knows something's going on with Donny, and he's trying to be there for him, which is interesting. Usually in movies like this, when there's a person who's trying to get with or be friends with the killer, they're doing it for selfish reasons, and then when the killer finds out about this, it pushes them into going out of control. But in Don't Go in the House, Bobby is trying to be a good person. He's legitimately trying to be a good person. Hell, he was trying to be there for Donny before his mother died. Again, he has no idea that Donny's mother died, but the fact of the matter is, he's trying to be there for him throughout this film. He's trying to give him someone to talk to, trying to help Donny come out of his shell. Hey man, let's go get a drink, and you can talk to me if you need to.
I'm real worried, Bobby.
Listen, you want me to come over? We could talk about it.
No, you can't come over right now.
And there comes a point where Bobby sees Don have a violent outburst, and he tries to find a way to get him some help.
What's the trouble?
Listen, Father Garrity, my name is Bobby Tuttle. I'm a friend of Donny Kohler's. He's in a lot of trouble, Father. He's gone crazy.
Well, come in.
No, there isn't time. He's really flipped out, and this guy's after him and wants to kill him.
That's something I don't see in too many serial killer movies or Descent into Madness movies like May or Excision. Usually in these kinds of movies, when there's somebody trying to be the killer's friend, they have an ulterior motive. It's rare to see a movie where somebody is just trying to be there for who is going to be the villain, just trying to be a good friend. Not saying it doesn't happen, it's just something I haven't seen too much in these kinds of movies. Don't Go in the House is by no means the best slasher movie or serial killer flick, but it is a solid movie and it's a worthy addition to both subgenres. It has that dirty, gritty atmosphere that Grindhouse fans will enjoy, but I can only recommend it to people who like these kinds of movies. If you're not really into Grindhouse films or exploitation movies, it's okay to skip this one, but if you're a fan like me, I say go out and enjoy. And with that, let's get to the Grindhouse rankings. We've got a body count of 5. The kills consist of one person who dies by natural causes, but everybody else is set on fire. And that's a painful way to go. It kind of reaches the slasher requirements with a decent body count, but this is more of a serial killer flick. Keep that in mind when going into it. There's some nudity here, mostly a fully naked woman who gets set on fire. Holy shit. The kills are mostly in the first act. The second act focuses more on the psychological aspect of Donny. There is a dirty, creepy atmosphere in this flick. It'll make Grindhouse fans happy. There's a similarity to this movie and Maniac. If you're a Maniac fan, you'll have a good time with this one. And I find it interesting that Donny has someone who's trying to be there for him. I like the character of Bobby. I'm giving this a 3.7 out of 5. Sure, it's not one of the best movies, but it is a damn good one. Worth watching for Grindhouse and slasher fans. As always, I want to thank everybody for continuing to watch and support this channel. Please leave a comment down below. Let me know your favorite horror movie Mama's Boy. This is the Maniac, here to remind you that the Grindhouse will never die.
Hey man, have you ever been so high you became a cat?
Can you hear him?